Right.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dave.
And I'm John.
And this is the Coffee and Capes podcast. And John and I are two enthusiasts who enjoy drinking coffee and love talking about geek culture.
That's very true. We do. Like every week. That hasn't changed.
It has not changed.
No.
And I don't see it changing anytime in the near future. I think we've said that before already.
I think so too. Yeah. Our audience definitely knows. They're like, yes, yeah, we get it.
Yes. We enjoy these things and we hope you do too. And you found us in some way or another. So we're glad that you have. Hi, thanks for joining us. John, tell the people all the different ways they can find us and connect with us and comment and all the things.
Yeah. So guys, obviously if you're listening to us or you're watching us, you found us on one channel, but we're on YouTube, which is where you can see our faces. Hey, everybody. We're also on Spotify podcasts. We're on iTunes podcasts, Stitcher. We've got RSS feed, all the podcast distribution networks and channels. So tell your friends. And then as far as social media, we have a Twitter page. We've got Facebook. We're on Instagram, which is really Instagram and Facebook seem to be where we interact with listeners the most. So feel free to leave comments there about episodes and your thoughts. And then if you want to send us like something that's a little bit longer, more detailed, you can email us at supers@coffeeandcapes.com. That's coffee, the letter N, capes.com. And then we have a website that'll be launching at some time in the not too distant, but a little bit off future. It's being worked
middle
on.
Future. How about the middle future?
Middle future. Yes. Middle future.
Yep. It's very, very undefined and it can mean whatever we want it to mean. And whenever it launches,
yes,
we've succeeded in launching it in the middle future.
Very true. Very true. So with that, Dave, as the name implies, we like our coffee. What are you drinking today?
I do like our coffee. I am still enjoying some Caribou Blend. Still making our way through that bag of coffee from last week. So love me some Caribou. There are no more Caribou stores around me, which makes me sad, but I enjoy getting it from the grocery store once in a while. And
but
we did again.
I did send you a picture from the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport where there were multiple Caribou coffee shops in the airport. By the way, shout out to Minneapolis-St. Paul airport. That's a phenomenal airport. Like it's big too. Like we hiked around the airport during our layover. It's a beautiful airport.
Yeah, it's probably been 10 years since I was there, but I know that Minnesota is the headquarters for Caribou, and so that you can get multiple Caribou and nearby. So I've got family in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And hi, Mark. Hi, Steve. If you're listening, I hope you are. And when I've been there in the last, most recently when I've been there, I've been able to find some Caribou there as well. So if you're in South Dakota, consider yourself blessed that you get to have some Caribou coffee.
Fair enough. Today I am enjoying a cup of Wide Awake coffee. That is an eagle, by the way. Yeah.
I thought it was an owl at first.
Yeah.
But now I can see that it's an eagle. Like the big eyes.
There's a lion on the back. They
okay.
all just have like the bug eyes going on.
Yeah.
So Wide Awake coffee. This is a Seattle style dark. It says smoky, smooth, and heavy bodied. Very bold. It's good. I'm enjoying it. As always, I've got my my creamer in here because I do enjoy a little creamer in my coffee. And I know, and a coffee bomb. I've got my coffee bomb from Ladybird Provisions Coffee Bombs. So thanks Nicole and Sarah for making such a great product that I enjoy.
Yay, we love them.
Yes,
and
we
product. Do. So last week we instituted a new segment that we're calling Fan Fiction, where we interact with some of your comments. What do you got for us for today for Fan Fiction?
Yeah, this one actually, so this is a comment from a couple people. It's a thread that comes off of episode 12, The Strongest There Is. You guys, like, just so everybody knows, we have other episodes. You can go backwards in the catalog and listen to some of our earlier stuff. I think we've gotten better as time has gone on.
For sure.
we kind of ironed things out. Like the first couple episodes, you could tell. Also, Dave was nice enough to get us microphones.
Yeah, we
So
upgraded our equipment. That really helped the sound part.
that helped a ton. Yeah, we don't sound like we're tin men in a tunnel somewhere.
Right. So around episode 6 or 7, I think we upgraded equipment, and
yeah, I think
definitely sounds better. So if you go to those earlier ones, which we hope you do, because they were still fun.
Yeah, they're still fun.
You know, just be ready for some lesser sound quality there.
Yeah, there you go. So this is a couple of comments actually, and so my friend Adam, under the moniker Adam Entirely on Instagram, on the strongest there is, states, once magic and such gets involved, then Superman's superness gets a bit useless. I think Scarlet Witch puts him in the corner crying about his mom, or if she snaps a la House of M, then he's gone altogether. And the response, one of the responses to that, or a reply to that, came from Rando Space Not Living Dead 82. And he said, same goes for Hulk. I mean, Scarlet Witch is stupid, overpowered. She once whispered no more mutants, and pow, she's like the living version of the Infinity Gauntlet.
Oh,
which was an interesting take on that, I thought.
That
so
is.
like really cool take on that. And Dave, right before we started this, you made a comment about her in Endgame.
Yeah. So to celebrate New Year's Eve, my family and I, we watched Endgame. My son found a thing where if you start the movie at 9:29 and 30 seconds, you'll get to oh, spoiler alert, you'll get to Tony. If anybody listening to this needs a spoiler alert for that movie, it's 2 years old. You'll get to the moment when Tony Stark gets the snap right at midnight, and it worked out. It was super fun and cool. And I was reminded just how darn much I like that movie and how good it is. But the point being, we're as we were watching it and then a little talking afterwards, man, Scarlet Witch was like moments away from killing Thanos all by herself.
Yeah.
Which is kind of ridiculous, but also kind of terrifying. And I don't disagree with which guy was it? Which commenter was it? Adam or the other one that said she's stupid OP? I think there's some truth to that.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, she has a history in the comics of essentially just laying waste to reality.
Yeah.
Right. And we saw that. Yeah, I agree with you. In Endgame, she almost takes him out until he calls to rain fire down on everybody, and the ship starts firing on everyone. Yeah. You know, even when they were like, well, what about our people? It's like, just doesn't matter. Do it now. Right. Like, yeah, just do it now. So yeah, I agree. I think Scarlet Witch, and we were talking about this the other day. We didn't really touch a whole lot on some of the other like kind of power sets. We floated into a lot of like strength, like Omni-Man, Hulk, Superman, those kinds of things, without really touching like Scarlet Witch a whole lot, or any of those folks who could possibly, you know, shut one of those guys down by getting into their head. So
yeah, I mean, to be fair, we were talking mostly, I think we were focusing mostly in that episode on physical strength rather than power set. But it's, I mean, that's just as much a fun conversation as
I think that ends up being an episode we get to dive into.
But all the magic users in the comic universe are unpredictably powerful.
Yeah, for sure.
So. And I do think there's a thread throughout Scarlet Witch's character arc in comics where she's not always able to control it. Like there is a sense where she's super powerful and not always in control of all of that.
Right.
Which
it's chaos magic.
Right, exactly.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be
That's
interesting.
A great comment though. Yeah.
Yeah, great comment from Adam. Great response from Living Space Not. And excited to see, you know, her turn in the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Yes.
Right, because that looks like it's going to be interesting. But if you're watching us, so thanks for the comments, by the way, guys. Please go back and listen to some of the older episodes. Leave your comments, and we'll read something online. But
it's fun. We appreciate you.
Yeah, if you're watching this, you see our background as usual. There's a hint to what we're discussing in the background. So, Dave, today we're reviewing.
We're reacting to Matrix Resurrections.
Yes.
which we were able to watch together last week, which was fun.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, while we were had some time in the same physical space, which was a little treat.
It's great.
Yeah. So we did not see it on the big screen. So I guess that's important to name from the beginning, that maybe that will affect how we reacted to it. We watched it on my TV. And to be fair, we kind of got interrupted a few different times. It was a little
We did. We got
start and
interrupted
stop.
a few times. Yeah.
But Matrix. So let's react to Matrix. I will say, back in '99 when the first Matrix came out, like most people that see in '99, I would have been like 28 years old or something. So man, it was right up my alley. Like most folks our age and other ages too, but most folks our age, my goodness, did I love the original Matrix, and did it blow my mind.
Yeah. And had a significant impact on Halloween costumes for a while.
For sure. Yes. And a significant impact on movies. I mean, the whole bullet time thing became de rigueur in movies, in action movies,
and video games.
Yes.
Action movies, video games, like you name it. Like they really, like the Wachowskis, like really, when they hit on that, made us like had a significant impact on like kind of geek culture and effects.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. It was something we'd never seen before. It was super cool to, see Neo like do the whole
right. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yes.
That whole thing, like
it gave us a chance to see Keanu Reeves in a different way.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I guess I haven't looked up his whole, where it falls in his movie arc, but in his movie career. But, was he really an action star before that?
Well, maybe, yeah, I mean, by then he had done Speed, and he had done Point Break.
Sure.
Yeah. But this was different. I feel like, there was a different feel to this, and it was a trilogy, right?
Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah, and so, without diving too deep into the trilogy, right? I think we need to jump into this one, but the first one was insanely popular, was groundbreaking. I think everybody can go back and watch it and think, yeah, this was phenomenal.
Yeah.
The second one, little less so than the first one. Yeah. And then the third one was kind of universally viewed as like meh.
Yeah.
Right.
To be honest, I don't remember much about 2 and 3. I know I saw them in the theater at the time.
Right.
I don't know that I could tell you much about them. I don't know that I've seen them since.
Yeah.
Like I have very little memory of 2 and 3, other than being underwhelmed by them.
Yeah.
Before I knew that was our rating system, I would say I was 2003 version of me was underwhelmed by them.
Yeah. And yeah, I still enjoyed them. I don't know that I was underwhelmed by the second one. I wasn't like the first one, I was clearly overwhelmed by. The second one was kind of whelmed. The third one, I was somewhere in between underwhelmed and whelmed, because I was like seeing how a trilogy rounds out.
Yeah.
So, but then we got like this long gap. I didn't think we'd see another Matrix movie. We got a whole new series of movies from Keanu Reeves and the John Wick series.
Yeah.
Which, so good.
They're very entertaining.
So good. So good. And, for a guy who does his own stunts, and he could just come out and, he's a great person. Like everything about him. He's just a great human being. He's super kind to people. Like gave all of his stunt men, like, gifts at the end of things, like waits in line to get into his own rap parties, like doesn't want to cause it, like just a humble human being, right?
Yeah. And if all this feels like we're stalling from talking about the actual movie, you might not be wrong.
Yeah, I think that we're setting it up to, just because our honest opinion on this is, well, let's dive into the movie, right? Sure. So
what did you like about it? Resurrections. What did you like about it?
So, and we've talked about this a little bit. I enjoyed the first part of this movie. Like I really did. It set some things up that I thought, whoa, this is gonna like this has potential to be pretty cool.
Mhm.
We got the actress who played Colleen Wing in Iron Fist. I can't remember her name.
Well, I'm here for you with that.
Thankfully,
Jessica Henwick.
Jessica Henwick.
Yep.
And then we got a new, like a revised Morpheus.
With Yaha Abdul Mateen II, who
Yeah.
was fantastic in Watchmen.
Yeah, like
And
amazing in Watchmen.
yes, I did not see Candyman, but he was in that just recently too.
Yeah, I haven't watched that one either. But so we had, you know, they were setting some things up. They had there were some cool reveals in the beginning. Neil Patrick Harris is in it
Yes.
as the analyst, like Neo's
With
analyst.
some very, very blue glasses.
Yeah, there. So I do want to say I enjoyed the fact that they color tinted a lot of Neo's world. In man, it's funny, we're both wearing like blue shirts or blue hoodies, but they color tinted a lot of his world in blue.
Yeah.
Right before his kind of awakening, I guess we could say.
Right. To which we interpret as an indication that he's kind of swallowed the blue pill again, that he's back in the made up world of Matrix. He's in the world of the Matrix.
Yeah, he's plugged back into the Matrix. And then you know, but it's very like his life is very different.
Yes.
In the Matrix this time around.
I actually really liked that setup.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really pretty darn clever. That what have they done to get him back? Well, they've made him, and oh gosh, we forgot our always our Coffee and Capes podcast spoiler rule, which is we're going to spoil everything. So if you haven't seen the movie and want to maintain spoiler free, then you need to pause us right now.
Yeah,
or maybe 5 minutes ago. Like, I'm not sure. But
at some point, you should have stopped. Like,
yes, come back when you've seen it, because otherwise we're gonna maybe ruin things for you. But and if you did that and you're back, welcome back. We're glad to have you back. So Neo's back in the Matrix. Thomas Anderson, Mr. Anderson, is back in the Matrix. And I love the setup with that. Like, oh, he created a video game that was a trilogy of games in the Matrix, and just it's so meta, and I thought clever and fun, and everything they did with that. And the office politics, and oh my gosh, here's the dude, like the creator dude, and he goes to get coffee, and everybody's and you got the one sycophant guy who's always preening, like, hanging out. Yeah,
I'm just exactly. Like your biggest fan, and it changed my life. Yeah, that guy.
Right. Like everything about that, I thought was a really interesting, clever setup.
Yeah, I agree with you. The other piece that I really liked was the way they brought Agent Smith back in. Now, granted, they didn't bring back the original Agent Smith to play himself again. Apparently, there was conversation around it, but they opted not to go that route. And they brought in an actor who, if you've ever seen the show Mindhunter, is in Mindhunter. He's in some other stuff as well, Dave.
Jonathan Groff.
Right, Jonathan Groff.
He was he's King George in the original Hamilton.
Right, King George in the original Hamilton. He's a great actor.
Yeah.
He was to me also like one of the highlight roles in the movie. So, you know, they had a clever way to bring Morpheus in.
Yes.
Right. As a program that Neo wrote to try and I don't know if he was trying to determine what was real again and what wasn't. That really wasn't clear, like why he was playing around with that old Matrix code.
Yeah. The module, didn't they call it, or something?
No, modal.
Modal, sorry. Yes.
Modal. Yeah. And
what all that meant, I don't know.
No. So, but when they brought Neo and Smith together, right? It was interesting how they interacted in that dynamic, because Neo was the greatest, you know, according to the movie, he was the greatest game programmer of all time, you know, this celebrity in the world.
Yeah.
And then Agent Smith was unaware that he was Agent Smith, which was an interesting spin, that they took this important character, this important program from the Matrix that had such a significant tie-in with Neo, and made him like Neo's boss and kind of like partner-ish in the company that creates video games.
Yeah.
Right. And they were working on a new game called Binary, which as the movie goes on, kind of had a tie-in somewhere, and you kind of get it. But I liked the like setup relationship they had between those two.
Yeah.
Especially when Morpheus finally kind of has his awakening and goes to get Neo, and all of a sudden there's a massive shootout, which we knew was coming at some
Right.
point. And Neo's trying to run away, and Agent Smith has his like that moment to me. So this is definitely like one of those spoiler moments, right? That moment where he looks down and sees the Desert Eagle, which was his preferred like weapon in all the Matrix movies.
Yeah.
And kind of you see him just have that like, well, this is interesting, and reaches down and picks it up. And you see his big shout out to the to Groff. Big shout out to Groff for his facial turn.
Mm-hmm.
Like he went from this just kind of like very like, you know, professional, like kind of younger professional looking dude, and his face just did this like really interesting like twist, right?
Yeah.
And picks up the gun. Mr. Anderson,
yeah,
how I've missed you.
Yeah.
And starts squeezing off shots, and you're like,
right.
Oh, but that's also like one of the first times they did that kind of character flip for a second, yes, and showed footage from an old movie.
Right. So you got a little shot of
the original Agent Smith.
Yes.
So you knew who we were looking at
right
at that point.
Yeah. It was interesting that after that, like, you know, old Agent Smith called him Mr. Anderson all the time. Mr. Anderson. And Jonathan Groff's character was usually called him Thomas.
Yes. Yeah. Usually called him Thomas.
Kind of made it his own, you know, his own version of Agent Smith then, and kind of maybe tying into the familiarity that they had as in this world of where they're business partners.
Yeah, where like their relationship has evolved.
Yeah.
Right. They went from being purely adversarial to having a more linked like relationship, you know?
Yeah.
Neo is portrayed as having been a suicide survivor, which is why he goes and sees Neil Patrick Harris's character, which is known as the Analyst.
Yeah.
And there's a moment where he and Agent Smith are talking, and Agent Smith's like, how are you? Are we doing okay? Like, and it wasn't an attempt. It didn't feel like an attempt to keep Neo engaged in the Matrix. It genuinely felt like a business partner concerned about the other one.
Yeah.
And so I think that you're right. There was that level of familiarity that they had evolved to, where there was a different level of like respect, care, maybe appreciation for the change that Neo sparked.
Yeah.
In Smith.
Yeah, for sure. I was wondering this too, just thinking about it as we're talking about it. Is it possible that and how do you say the director's name?
Wachowski,
yeah. I'm having visions of Monsters Inc. at the moment when I try to say that.
Wachowski.
Yeah. Is there something maybe being said here about how violence changes us? In the sense that, you know, Smith is himself and then, as you said, he picks up the gun, and yeah, there's definitely this connection to the, you know, the previous version, but also, is it something about the act of violence that, I don't want to say brings out the worst in him, but brings out this other side of him that is violent? I don't know. I just something that hit me just right now as I'm picturing that scene.
Maybe. Right. It's possible. And you know, it's only possible. But then you know, to kind of move past this, I guess, a little bit, we get the Trinity gets introduced.
Yeah.
right, as Tiffany.
Mm-hmm.
And
With the family and that whole thing. And oh my gosh, the chemistry between Keanu and Carrie-Anne Moss
yeah,
is
still
really strong. Yes.
still strong,
Yeah.
right? It was strong in the first series. It's still strong. Like, kudos to those two for their on-screen chemistry. That's probably one of the best things of the movie.
Yeah, for sure.
Was their continued, like, and the softness that approached it this time. That is something that tracks with age, right?
Yeah.
Just a little bit more gentle, like not as fiery,
Yeah.
but that, like, haunting, familiar feeling, longing. Clearly there's some longing on Neo's part and he doesn't understand why.
Yeah.
And so that first part of the movie I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Like, I really enjoyed it, and it set up a lot of things. Now, it did some things I didn't like. We talked about the self-deprecating humor being done to a level that was off-putting.
Yeah, it was maybe a little too self-aware in moments. Like, it kind of takes you out of the story a little bit. I mean, I appreciate a wink or two, but not like a constant. You're not winking at me so much that I think you've got like a twitch.
Right. Yeah. There is definitely some points.
I think it was pretty darn close to like twitch territory as opposed to just a fun little wink or nod.
Yeah. There was I think there was the first time it happened, we both chuckled.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, hey, look, that's funny. And then they kept going with it and it lost its shine.
Yeah.
And it was just like, okay, now it's distracting.
Yeah.
Now it's overdone. Right. And it just, it made it less fun because it's overdone. Right. It's like trying to, like, you sit down and there's this delicious cake in front of you and you have a small slice and you're like, oh, this is great. And then they're like, keep eating. And you're like, I don't want to keep eating. Like, this little piece was fine. They're like, keep eating, and you keep eating, and like fun turns into like not so great anymore.
You and I have a different relationship with cake. I'm not sure that would turn to less fun for me.
I think if you ate half of a giant cake, you probably wouldn't feel good.
You're probably right.
Yeah. So there was that piece that like was kind of, and then there's a bunch of different things that lead to like Neo's awakening. I still enjoyed. So Neil Patrick Harris is one of my favorite like people to have in anything.
Sure, he's great.
Yeah, he's fantastic. If we think about his evolution from Doogie Howser, into playing himself in like the Harold and Kumar movies, to a little known thing. I don't know how many people out there have seen Dr. Horrible's sing along blog, which if you've never seen it, so good. Nathan Fillion's in it. Directed by Joss Whedon. Like, it's just brilliant. But Neil Patrick Harris is super talented, very funny, great actor, and he did not disappoint in this movie to me.
No, he did not. And yet, despite how friendly he is in most of his roles, despite how he's a guy who sings and sings well and dances and all the things, he, to me, succeeds in being menacing here as well.
Yeah, like you wouldn't think he would be. Right? You just wouldn't think he would be menacing, but he's so good at being disarming and cerebral.
Yeah. That when he makes the heel turn, you're a little caught off guard because that's a good word, disarming. He's kept you he's made you so comfortable around him.
Yeah, which is what he's done with Neo the whole time, right? And he's like, when Neo's like, am I crazy? And he's like, we don't use that word here.
Yeah.
And he's just so soft and like, he comes across very much like a therapist, because that's what he's acting like to Neo, right? Although Neo refers to him as his analyst. He doesn't refer to him as his therapist.
Correct.
He's like, I pay my analyst a lot of money to answer those questions.
Yeah.
And it was interesting how they set him up as the heel, because he was so like caring and gentle with Neo and very different.
Expect him to be the big bad.
Right. You didn't expect, you knew like he was there, but you didn't expect him to be the one that's.
Yeah.
Until Smith tells him. Right. Was it Smith that was? Smith told him, he's like, you're not ready for him.
Okay, I don't think I remember that part.
I think it was
I
him.
believe you. I don't know if I remember that part.
Somebody says that to
Like,
him.
yeah. I think in the second half of the movie, it kind of goes off the rails a little bit, like
Yeah.
trying to explain all the ways that, oh, we're in the quote real world, and jacking into the matrix and turning it off, and the whole like major finale part about, well, the one, I mean, I do like the world where they're trying to live machine and human together. Like, that's great
Really nice.
as an idea. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
And should be the goal, right? If you
Mhm.
if there's a larger message to this movie, like, I mean, it's simplified and cliche to say, well, can't we all just get along? But there's a part of that, like, stop othering people who aren't like you. Like, if we could take that message throughout our country and throughout our world, we would be much, much better off.
Yeah, it was a nice message.
But the whole plot points about, like, the machine comes and we get the personification of the machine in the matrix, and then she's gonna, like, the whole thing about, we're gonna release Trinity but gonna put bugs in and then take bugs out. Like, none of that made any sense to me.
Yeah.
The way
Bugs,
they
by
did
the
it.
way, as a character, they weren't talking about actually putting bugs into something, like, but
Again, kind of, that's a wink that goes into kind of Twitch territory.
right. Yeah, for sure. Right.
It's
Like,
so self-aware.
Yeah.
That,
and agreed, right? It just,
like, I didn't understand what was happening or why.
it went so far off into just, it got messy. I feel is like what happened, right? And like, all of a sudden they had a really nice cadence through the first part of the movie with Neo kind of waking up and introducing Trinity and those two not knowing each other,
right?
And, Smith becoming aware, and Morpheus, and they had like a nice little cadence going on. And then they were like, okay, we got to speed this up. Like, so let's just start throwing spaghetti at the wall and running with whatever sticks. And that's kind of how it felt. Like, it felt like it just got messy towards the end.
And somewhere along the line, everybody got stormtrooper aim. Like, nobody could hit anybody to do anything.
Yeah, we repeated a lot of this was one of the things that I thought was really kind of like too much of a callback. Like, we got so many of the same moves.
Yeah.
Like the constant like cartwheeling in the air while you're shooting and all these, like, I was like, guys, we couldn't get a choreographer for the fight scenes that, came up with something different. Like, we're
Neo can't fly now, but he's got this like shield power thing apparently,
which was never discussed, right?
Yeah.
So, and then Trinity wakes up, right? And the binary thing, which I thought was actually clever, like, was probably the most clever that ran through the entire movie, was they introduced Neo was working on a new game called Binary. Yeah. And then we find out that Neo and Trinity together, right, are like
powering the Matrix.
Powering the Matrix, because they're just like the level of energy that they create by being in proximity to one another. Yeah. Right. They didn't want them to actually come together because that changes it. It's too much power at that point in time. It's too destructive to the Matrix. And so I thought it was the binary thing, right, was kind of a nice play throughout everything.
Sure. And again, if that's the message, if it's just another way of putting on screen is it Margaret Mead, the whole, never doubt the power of a small group of people to change the world because it's the only thing that ever has, like, that, maybe there's something to that there, but I wasn't thinking about that when I was watching the movie. Like, if that's supposed to be the message, well, it came to me now a week later or whatever, but
right.
I just, in the midst of it, I'm just like, okay, I like these two characters. I want them to succeed or whatever, but what is this mess that's going on around them?
Yeah. And then we lost Agent Smith for a while, who I thought was a really well done, like, and super interesting and compelling potential of a character.
Yeah.
And he shows back up.
Yep.
Right. He shows back up and
the exact right time.
At the exact right time, and like helps take down the analyst, and helps Neo and helps Trinity, and then when that the whole fight scene is done, drops his gun and says, our
unexpected alliance has ended.
our unexpected alliance
again, way too self-aware there.
Right.
Unexpected alliance thing.
But it's, he like became became a wasted character in the second half of the movie. Especially for as strong as they kept hinting at the relationship between he and Neo was.
Yeah. And they seem to want, like, they try to explain it that, Andrew or Smith wants something else, wants Neo gone because then he can create the old Matrix again or something. But that thread sort of got dropped somewhere along the line. Like, I don't know.
There were a lot of, and I think we've talked about this before. Like I attended a master's program and completed a master's program in creative writing for film at Full Sail University out of Florida, which big shout out to them. Fantastic program. Absolutely loved that program. And I learned a great deal. And one of the things you get to talk about is you talk about movies like we're doing now, but you're looking at what's good, what's bad, what makes a good movie, where does it fall apart. The first Matrix was a movie that we studied in being kind of one of those that was a good example of like a phenomenal script from beginning to end, did a really nice job of exploration and reveal and everything else, and following kind of the act rule. This one I felt like started a bunch of different threads and then just snipped them because they maybe realized they didn't have enough time, enough bandwidth to squeeze it all in.
Right.
And there were some random threads they took, and you didn't remember the Frenchman.
No, not at all.
But you told me like you hadn't seen 2 or 3 in
ages,
maybe, right?
Maybe since they came out, maybe 2003 or, a year or something later.
Right. And he was one of those that from a screenplay writing aspect, if you're looking at it strictly from a story plot, it just was kind of a wasted moment. Like,
he never shows up again, does he? Didn't lead to anything. It's a little callback to stuff, but didn't go anywhere.
I think that's where it fell apart for me. Too many callbacks that never went anywhere.
Okay, here's my attempt to redeem it. Is that a commentary on nostalgia? Like, I think there's a lot going on in our country right now in the world where, because we're so trapped in this idea of nostalgia, but it doesn't really, but that's ultimately a dead end. Maybe that's a lesson, but man, that feels like I'm giving the movie an awful lot of credit that I'm not sure it's deserved.
I love you, my friend, but I feel like that might be a reach.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a nice way to look at it and try to find a redeeming factor in it. But if I'm looking at it from just strictly like, where did it go? How did it do in the context of the film in and of itself? It felt like it suffered from this desire to bring awareness to its own past iterations.
Yeah.
And somehow use it to tie into a new system and series. And it just didn't really work.
Which is maybe what a resurrection is, in the sense of, obviously, in my day job, I'm a pastor in the United Methodist Church, and we talk some about resurrection. It's kind of a big deal. And maybe some of what you just said is what happens is like there's a callback to what's been before and but yet becomes something new. I'm not sure how well that transformation ever quite happened.
Yeah,
Trinity was cool, like, and then all of a sudden, just at the exact right moment, Trinity's got the powers, which is great. I'm happy for her to have powers. That's awesome, and it's fun for the two of them to be now a binary, to be a couple, a duology or something, like to be connected to each other and have to be co-equals. That's what I want to say. To be like co-equals in this world. It's great. So, how did that happen? How did they earn that?
Right.
It didn't feel
there's
earned.
a lot that wasn't earned.
Yeah.
And here's the thing is, like, I agree with you. I actually thought the last scene of the movie where they go and rip part of the building off from Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah.
And then Trinity starts she kicks his butt and then does a snap and like fixes him, and then does it again and snaps and fixes him. And the interaction between Neo and Trinity about like creating rainbows in the sky. Yeah, maybe that'd be nice. Like we should do that. Like that to me, I liked that scene, but it felt like it wasn't earned.
Yeah.
To me. And I felt like we didn't get enough payoff. So in the very first Matrix, let's go back to the very first Matrix. Before we ever got ultra powered Neo, a lot happened. He earned that through his arc, right? There was the self-doubt. There were all these other things that took place that led to him being kind of the Superman of the Matrix.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, taking into account, we've had 3 Matrix movies prior to this one, and we've seen Trinity prior to this one. We have never, though, seen Trinity power up in any way, shape, or form in the prior 3 movies. And so for me, like I wanted to see more of her to get the payoff at the end of her having that power. And we got so much Neo to get him back to where he was. I feel like if I was going to do this movie series, if I was suddenly in charge, if I was going to do this movie series, the way that they had started it, I would have followed that through to the end and then had a hint at the end of Trinity awakening to this greater power, and then done a second one that puts the focus on her. Right. And bringing her to that level. And then you get to do a third, if you want to do another one after that, that shows the 2 of them like fighting and rewriting the Matrix. And maybe I don't know what they're going to do. I doubt they're going to have enough juice behind this one to do another one. And I don't know that there's enough positive fan reaction to it.
Well, and why are they just rewriting the Matrix? Doesn't that just mean they're leaving all of these humans in those pods?
Yes. Yeah, they're all stuck in the pods.
What? How is that a tenable solution? I don't understand.
So, guys, we talk about often. I just want to kind of pause this really quick. We talk often about like, this is just an opinion. We're just an opinion. And we have a very like I'm confused by what they did here. I thought a lot didn't pay off. There are a lot of missed opportunities, but this is just our opinion. And if you loved the movie, please share with us like what you loved it, like why you loved it. And if you didn't like it, like share with us that too. Like our opinion of this is not the be all to end all. You know, so it's like, please don't take it that way, and don't let this taint your thoughts on going to see it. Like, go see it, whether you have HBO Max, which is what we watched it on, or you choose to go see it at the movie theater, go see it. I tried to watch it a second time because I thought maybe the interruptions that we had had an impact on that. I fell asleep.
The second time,
yeah, fell asleep. Rachel fell asleep. You know, we both kind of in the same, before I fell asleep, it was the same thing. Really enjoying that first part, and then it started to do its switch over, and I was like, I'm just going to close my eyes for a second.
So in our absolutely, all of that, like, have your own opinion. Of course you should. That's the beauty of geek culture, is that we can all watch the same stuff and have widely variant reactions to it. And if this movie was your jam, I'm super happy for you, because I wanted to know why.
I'd love to know your opinion. I want to know if this was your jam, like, why was it your jam? What did you?
What are we missing? What are we missing that makes it fantastic for you? So in our newly patented, not officially actually patented at all, but in our Coffee and Capes rating system of overwhelmed, whelmed, or underwhelmed, John, what'd you give Matrix Resurrections?
Because I enjoyed the first half, right? And then in the second half, it just felt like it kind of fell apart. This is probably the first one I've done this way, but I'm in between whelmed and underwhelmed. Like, depending on which half of the movie I'm looking at, right? I'd have to go in between whelmed and underwhelmed. Like, despite liking the first half of the movie, There were still some things we talked about, like the too long of a nod towards the wink that turned into a twitch. Like you said, I like that. And a couple other items in there that I was like, me. And then the second half of the movie that had a couple bright spots, but for the most part was me. I would have to put this like between whelmed and underwhelmed.
Yeah. I want to say the same thing. That feels like a little bit of cheating, that we've created a 3-tiered system and then we just added a whole new tier. Guess what? It's our system. We get to change it as necessary.
Yeah.
So totally. It's somewhere between a whelmed minus and an underwhelmed plus, I guess.
Yes, there you go.
Did just, you know what just hit me as I was saying, like I said, oh, what'd you give Matrix Resurrections? And I had a moment of doubt, like, is it Resurrections plural or Resurrection? And I looked, it is officially Resurrections plural. So maybe there's something there about how, well, Trinity, like she did just have that moment where she just woke up, like she became suddenly aware of who she was and her abilities, I guess.
I suppose.
But it still just didn't feel earned.
Yeah.
So I didn't hate this movie. I just didn't like it as much as I wanted to.
Yeah.
And I'll say again, did I say this last week? I might have said this last week when talking about Hawkeye. I think anything that's coming out right about now is going to suffer from the Spider-Man No Way Home problem, because No Way Home is so damn good.
Yeah.
That everything else is going to feel a little lesser in comparison.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like there's just not an opportunity in the immediate future for anybody to come in and knock our socks off in a film or a show. Really, I mean, even and we haven't talked about it. We usually don't talk about shows until they're done with their run. But even the Book of Boba Fett, right?
It's going to suffer from the same problem, or potentially. I don't know yet.
Potentially,
I haven't seen the one episode, but
yeah, it could potentially suffer from the same issue. Is that Spider-Man No Way Home is there on that same tier as Avengers Endgame in terms of like emotional roller coaster and just everything that paid off so well. You can't, like, if Matrix Resurrections came out before No Way Home, maybe a little bit more like, hey, cool. But yeah, anything that comes out now around it is going to have a tough time. It's like, putting Justice League out after Infinity War.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Granted.
That's not, we don't need to go down that road.
No, we're not going to go down that road.
I guess my final thought would be, I enjoyed the performances. Like I'm looking at all the actors on my, my background right now, and Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss and Yaha Abdul-Mateen II and Jessica Henwick, and the two we mentioned, Jonathan Groff and Neil Patrick Harris. I'm honestly not quite sure who the other person is behind there.
I don't know either.
Which one is that? That's not Christina Ricci back there, is it?
No, but she was in it. It was funny.
That was one of the other people.
Like a heartbeat.
I can't find who that was. Like the
performance-wise.
Performance-wise, terrific. Enjoyable, and there was like, I didn't feel anybody was bad. It just I'm gonna blame this one on the script, that it just didn't. It, as you said, it just couldn't tie all the threads together, and got out over its skis maybe a little bit. And
but and I'll agree with you. Like you said, I loved the acting, like the performances from everybody.
The new characters they created to bring them in, like I really like that. Yeah,
they were great.
So
that's kind of the Matrix Resurrections, guys. If you
from our opinion.
Yeah, from our opinion, like we'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And if you give us your thoughts in social media, or you send us your thoughts on in an email, we'll read something of yours in the fan fiction segment.
You too could end up in the fan fiction segment, and man, wouldn't your life be complete if you ended up in the Coffee and Cakes fan fiction segment?
Probably not. I don't know. Maybe
not. I hope not. I hope you have bigger designs on your life,
bigger plans for your life. But to that point too, guys, if you do send over an idea, we genuinely are like open to like having conversations about topics you want to talk about.
Absolutely.
And before we wrap, I mentioned earlier I wanted to give kind of a little shout out to a business. So Graham Cracker Comics, which has locations both by Dave and it turns out here by me.
Yeah.
We stopped in there yesterday. I got some comics. I was pretty excited. Got a new comic box, but I want to give them a shout out for the way that they handled a situation. There was a family in there and their little kids knocked over a display. Like you heard it crash. This is, you know, if you're a comic book collector or a collectibles person, like you're in a store flipping through comic books and you hear a crash, like I think everybody's like heart skips a beat.
Right.
Like, oh no, so much money could be lost right now. And I think a very understandable and real reaction from somebody working in the store would have been different, but kudos to the young lady working at Graham Cracker Comics, whose first question when the father started apologizing profusely was, well, first things first, are the kids okay? Like little
win for humanity in that moment. Thank you very much.
Yeah, total win for humanity in that moment.
Comics. Yeah.
So, you know, you guys have my business for life because of that right there. That and I was able to find some cool comics.
It does help. They are great. Like the local shop by me is fantastic, and all the people that run it, and Mike, who's the manager there, is a funny and great guy and fun to talk to.
Gary's
there now too, right? Yeah, our friend Gary works there too. So
hey Gary.
Yeah. Hi Gary. Thanks Graham Cracker Comics for keeping us in all the good geeky goodness.
Yeah. All right,
folks. Have a great new year. Happy New Year. Oh gosh. Hey, Happy New Year. We got to the entire end of this thing and didn't say Happy New Year because
Happy New Year. Happy 2022.
Yeah.
And remember, 2022 doesn't mean it's 2022. Like part 2. It's its own year. Celebrated as such.
Let's make it a better year. Let's do
that. Have a great year.
Sweet. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. And until next time, true believers. Bye.
Bye guys.